Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, guess who's back? Welcome to the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. My name is Stephen Koenig, and like always, joining me in the box is the one, the only, the world's slowest alien, Donington Park.
No, good evening, Stephen. Thanks for stealing my line now. That was supposed to be my thing. But welcome, everybody. We are back, and as I said to Stephen off air, we must have done something right that they wanted us back, and they haven't fired us yet, eh, Steve?
Oh, well, they got our mug shots out there, so, gotta love it. But round number 1 at Donington for the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series, it's going to be a monumental task for the guys to shake off the bit of rust that's gone on. But while the guys have got their qualifying, we've got about 11 minutes, 30 seconds. Let's actually go on board with a little bit of a track preview, courtesy of Mr. Deploy in the Mercedes.
Well, as you see Christian going around, Donington Park is a bit of a tricky track. Pit exit, not so much tonight, but tomorrow night at pit exit's going to play a huge role as the pit actually exits onto the racing line. This midsection, as we see the Mercedes moving around there a little bit. Steve, I think in tonight's sprint race, this is going to be more or less follow the leader. There's one or two blind corners coming up here where you can't exactly see the exit of the corner. And
It's going to be a very interesting one, but also great passing maneuver can be done right here if you just get the guys to break offline and land up in the weeds.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're on to that kind of a straight, that chicane coming up. This you absolutely need to attack if you want a good lap time. Get as close to that barrier as possible. Otherwise, you're going to lose lap time. And I think where most of the overtaking is going to take place during this race, the second last corner, which is a hairpin, and then the last corner coming up, also a hairpin. As I said, Steve, I think that's where the guys are going to, look at lining the guys in front up over the lap and make their move in either one of these two corners.
That's also where it can go all wrong for our drivers as they make their way across the line, keeping their foot absolutely planted. But let's head over to our qualifying at the moment, where the racing is going to be having a bit of fun, where the drivers are going to be showing off what they can do and shaking off a bit of the rust. And some impressive time being put out, 1:26.0 by Ryan Hudson, who is really showing off what he can do. Going and eating up the track, definitely earning that name with Ryan Hudson.
Yeah, 1:26 dead, that's quick. And we see familiar names there, Vega, Corbler, 3/10 of a second behind, with Van der Merwe 5/10 behind. But then, Stephen, also a couple of new names that are creeping into the pro division, if you can call it that, of the sprint series. So it's good to see Daniel Rowe as well back. He hasn't put up a lap time yet, currently sitting in 21st place, but I'm pretty sure if he gets a lap together, he might move up the order a little bit.
It's going to be pretty interesting, and obviously with the big news that's come out, and we've got to talk about the elephants in the room, as you've seen with all the sponsors up in the top right corner. One of the things that's coming up is MSA, and I know that is one thing that people are a little bit worried of, but this is actually the first sanctioned esports race happening for 2023 with MSA. RaceFace has combined a bit of efforts and helping write the rulebook to make things a little bit more easier, a little bit more accessible, and grow things in the future. So absolutely some big news coming out of that one, and hopefully some even bigger news to come out as time goes on. But it's going to be an absolutely incredible time for all our drivers, as we can see Mr. Pillay just going and waiting a little bit, allowing the guys to get past so he doesn't interfere with laps.
Yeah, I think in Donington, it's going to be a tricky track to set up a quick lap time, because the cars that are either out on an out lap or on a cool down lap, they need to watch their mirrors so that they're not in the way. And through that middle section, can sometimes happen where the car on a flying lap jumps up on you very quickly and you might just not get out of the way quick enough.
That's it. And just saw WT going and saying, when you're in car, be able to hear us. Hopefully this is a little bit better and you can hear us a little bit clearer. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're also shaking off the race. It's got to be a little bit of a tricky thing. But, well, let's see how it all works out. Now, this is where I want to ask our drivers. I want to ask our guys that have been really practicing a bit here. Front engine versus mid engine for round number 1 at Donington. Very tricky course. It's all about trying to get to the right line, all about trying to get a little bit more momentum than the race. Mid engine, a little bit easier to corner. It goes and has a bit of an easier rotation versus the likes of our front engines. What do we think is going to be the advantage here? What do we think is going to be able to claw their way to the top?
If you ask me, it's always going to be a front engine one, Steve. The answer is always going to be the same.
It's just got to be the thing to think about, especially going into a season. It's first round of the season. You want to make a very good impression. You really want to claw your way up, and this is one thing you've got to be aware of. So, I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting little battle.
Well, here's something interesting for you. Daniel Rowe, he decided to swap his mid-engine for a front-engine BMW. So he's made a bit of a change. Now, obviously, the guys would have done a lot of practice, but they are essentially still getting used to the cars if they made a car change since last season or since the last race of last season. But at the front at this stage, the Porsche is king at this stage, followed by 2 Audis and then 4 BMWs. So even at this stage, it does look like those mid-engine cars do have a bit of an edge. And if I sound a bit weird tonight, I do have a nice bit of the flu. So, my voice is doing funny things every now and again.
I'll just take a look. A couple of new color schemes jumping onto the field, which is always fantastic to see. A bit of color coming out. And can't wait to see, as the season progresses, guys coming up with some new and innovative colors for their cars. But let's go through the grid with only 4 minutes and 47 seconds left. Ryan Otten's currently in first place in the Porsche. Bego Krobler in second place, chasing him down in the Audi. Third place, Daniel Rowe in the BMW. Mac van der Merwe of KSR Vibe in the Audi. Fifth place, Justin Lotus, followed by Ruin van der Westhuizen. Christopher Radloff charging his way through 8th place. Gideon Rayner, who's mowing the grass at this point. Darren Miller in 9th place, first of the Mercedes. And Daniel de Villiers in 10th place. Sujin Pillay in 11th, followed by Tini and Kube. Essie Esterhaus, Dean Kabasa, Johan Kleinans going and cruising around in 15th in the Honda. And it's really styling it out there. Bernard Reyno in 16th, followed by Ronaldo Boersma, who's a bit of a new name to see in the pros. Glad to see him up here and having a bit of fun. Followed by Tennis Bertha, Eric Kirstein, Hansi Myberg, and lying down in 21st place is Peter Meyer, coming over from the iRacing scene to go and rock and roll in the ACC scene.
Yeah, it's good to see Peter, coming across, and whoa, as we see Ryan getting all sorts out of shape there. But getting back to Meyer, we used to seeing him in the iRacing, as you mentioned. But it's good to see him carry some pace over to ACC as well in the Pro Division of the Sprint Series. Because, Stephen, as we all know, and people who have done different types of sims know it's not the easiest thing to swap sims and still, have that pace.
These are things to keep an eye out. But for the lap time at the moment, Ryan Otten's one to beat. 1 minute 26 seconds. Bego Krobler really trying everything he can to try and catch up to Ryan Otten's. Remember, Ryan Otten's was part of the championship rivals for Bego, and they really had to work hard to try and get ahead of him. Daniel Rowe in third place, also getting the bit between his teeth. He wants to try and claw his way up and put the fight straight to the top end of the field, switching out his car. So a couple of guys coming back to go after those championships. We start off with what can I say? Start off with a bang, and that's the only way of putting it out there. But to you guys just joining us, welcome. Glad to have you guys here. WT, Jason McGregor in the house as well. So glad to see Jason going and jumping in. And Rap Snake Moan Gaming. I do apologize for that one. It's glad to have you guys here coming in, enjoying RaceFace round number 1 for the GT3 Sprint Series. And I got to say, I'm really looking forward to this because this is going to give us a great baseline of what the cars can do for tomorrow evening for the Medal State Grid Championship Season 2. Gideon Reyna was 0.2 up on his time, lost a bit of time now, and he's really pushing hard to try move up through the field, currently lying in 7th place, but just not getting the momentum needed to try and claw his way through. That McLaren just not working out over the curbs, and you've got to be so careful. As we just saw, you can upset the car very, very quickly. Second to that, off tracks at Donington can be an absolute joy to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're trying to get the quickest line through the corners, and on a track like Donington, you need to cut the track sometimes a lot to get the lap time out of the car. And sometimes it's just a case of millimeters too much, and you're going to pick up that track limit warning. And we all know what happens after 3 of them, as we see Radloff going around there. I mean, on the grass, trying to muscle that BMW around. And coming back, Steve, we all know what happens after 3 track warnings.
That's when you start going and visiting your pit crew in the pits for an ice cream, that's for certain. SES House also going and making some waves, lying in 15th place and styling it out there in the ZRC Honda. Gets it sideways, loses it, and, well, I think that's a qualifying session done and dusted for him.
Yeah, it's 20 seconds to go. That's it, done and dusted. But for all the new people joining us on the stream tonight, I just want to say, me and Steven, if you don't know us by now, we are going to butcher surnames. We are going to get names wrong. I think it's kind of our trademark at this stage, Stephen. So with some of the new guys joining us, or new guys in this Pro Division Sprint race, we might get your surname wrong. We do apologize in advance. It's just one of those things, Steve.
Gets a bit exciting. So at the moment, Ryan Otten's making his way through, trying to better his time. Wants to get into that 125. Will he be able to do it? Putting his power down, coming across the line. Last lap time, 126.1. Wasn't able to better his last lap time. Bago Hrobler going and pushing as hard as he can be. He's in 2nd place. Daniel Rowe, who's in 3rd. Gideon Reyna jumping up into 4th place. And take a look, Mac van der Merwe going 0.1 up and just losing it under power. And now 0.2 down on his best lap time. So he tried his best to get a bit more rotation underneath the car, but just didn't want to work with him. Christopher Radloff tried his best, but unfortunately not making it to the end. So, interesting times going to be happening. The guys are going to have to keep an eye out on it. And where is it going to all lead out? For the first time here at Donington. So let's cut down back to the circuit. I wish I could drift a Porsche like that. I'm just gonna say that.
I was waiting for something like that. Steven, those two front rows. Ryan Ottens, Bago Hrobler, Daniel Rowe, Gideon Reyna. What do you think is going to happen in turn 1?
Gloves off, fighting all the way. Sujin Pillay looking to try and stop Mac van der Merwe in 6th place and move forward. Christopher Radloff starting a little bit further behind than what he wanted. He's in 7th place. So I think he's going to try and follow his teammates through that are ahead of him. Justin Lotus as well, also in the mix. Moving and making some waves. Ruin van der Westhuizen. I mean, these are the fastest of the fast. This is the fastest in the country, all coming out to duke it out once again. And I can't tell you what's going to happen. I watched a little bit of practice with the guys. They were really putting in some fast times there. but this is a track that's more follow the leader than anything else. So I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm incredibly nervous because you've got to heat up those brakes. You've got to heat up those tires. You've got to get everything just right. The first 4 laps, you just got to be settled. Let things happen around you. Try and figure out where you're going. Get your rhythm and follow your way through. That's the only way I can see this working, is focusing on your rhythm. Don't worry about the guy next to you. It's similar to when you're going in a jog. When you're busy jogging with someone, you start trying to get to... You go off rhythm on their to go to their pace. It takes a bit of time, and then you eventually get it. And these are things that guys have got to be so cautious of, not to be caught out, especially with corners that you think are going to be easy, but turn out to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing you also need to keep in mind, none of these drivers want to play follow the leader. They want to get out in front. So the other thing to take into consideration, this is not Thursday evenings. This is a sprint race. There's no pit stops, nothing. This is pure racing, start to finish. If you need to visit those pits, your race is going to be done and dusted. So in terms of strategy, the only strategy involved, Stephen, I think can be a little bit of tire management, maybe a little bit of fuel management if they, fueled those cars with just enough fuel. But that's about it. Other than that, let's go racing.
Just a little bit of Brummervane to get some courage juice in the system, but it's going to be a very interesting one. We're taking a look at the circuit at the moment from our helicam, and Tim the cameraman really giving us some extra shots. Glad to have Tim the cameraman back again. I thought he would have been fired. I know Jim down on the ground for interviews, we could never get hold of the guy. He was always by the boardwalk. So, it looks like one of our cars in that. I think it was Daniel Rowe that actually went a bit on the dirt. Going and seeing it's a little bit too cold out there. Tires aren't quite up to temperature.
Yeah, and that's going to make this first lap quite interesting, as we see Daniel bolting out in front. I think he's trying to warm up those brakes and tires by, stomping on the brakes. Maybe he realized that he hasn't got quite the temperature in there that he wanted, and he drastically had to do something about it as they're starting to run out of time. We're coming to the end of this formation lap now.
That's it. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is going to be an incredible one. So in the comments, let us know, who do you think is going to be able to claw their way to the top and get the checkered flag for the first 2023 race of a RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. And it's all on the cards. We want to see it. We can see you guys in the chat. Glad to have everyone here. We got some support that's going on, though. Hybrid Academy has got some support, but is Hybrid Academy going to have what it takes to get that first win? Or are they going to have a difficult time come the green lights in literally just one corner? You can see slowing down 70 k's an hour, and this is where it gets a bit dreadful. Bago Crawler is going to be on the outside heading into turn 1. But lining up, line astern, side by side, waiting for the green lights. As we wait. Anytime. You can turn it on. There we go. And the race is on. A little bit of a slow start for the guys. But it looks like Bago Crawler jumping out the box, trying to go around the outside. Ryan Hartson's not giving him too much room. Starting to close off that gap as they make their way around turn 1. All looks to be clear at the moment. But take a look. Daniel Rowe giving his teammate a rough time, trying to look on the outside. Now has got the inside line. Out brakes, giving a little bit of a nudge as well. As Bago now starting to drop down the order and has a problem with Gideon Rayner going onto the dirt to try and get round him.
Yeah, these got a little bit of contact between, I think it was Rayner and Pillay there. They are not hanging around, and Daniel has, made his intentions quite clear. He wants to get out in front.
Oh, Gideon Rayner has gone off into the dirt as the cars come by. There's Gideon Rayner trying to join. So I think a little bit of contact happened for him. See if we can go back a little bit. So watching on board, gets a little bit nudgy, touches the grass, out of shape, trying his might. Might have come across the nose just a little bit of Bago. And yes, goes across the nose into the dirt, keeps it out the wall, but definitely not what you want to have at the start of the race, and now dropping way down the order.
I mean, that's got all the potential to drop him right down to the back, which it has done at this stage, sitting in 20th position. But out in front, Ryan Ottens has opened up a little bit of a gap. The scrap between Rowe, Radloff, and Krobler definitely slowing them down a bit, and that has allowed Ryan Ottens to open up almost a 2-second gap now.
As they're starting to run a little bit line astern, taking a look, Dean Kabasa is also in a monstrous fight, going after Kleinans and is not backing off at all. Dean is going to give it everything he got, dives up on the inside, putting the power down and showing off what he can do.
Yeah, it looks like Kleinans ran a little bit wide. That compromised his exit because, he lost a bit of ground there.
And it looks like Dean Kabasa also going and clipping the grass. That has allowed Daniel de Villiers to go up on the inside and get round him. But now Dean Kabasa is back on the defense, trying to hold back the little Honda of Kleinans and Kube. Also trying to get a little bit more involved, having to just try and eye out these corners. But Dean Kabasa going and, well, all I could say is that set of Michelin tires has now gone venturing into the crowd.
Yeah, and it looks like Kleinans through the chicane did a little bit of rally driving. I think he went straight on, and that has caused him to drop back even further.
So, not having a great run there, but the winner of that match was Nkube, who managed to get a little bit more momentum. But take a look at Gideon Reyna. He is still trying to claw his way back up through the field and get a little bit more momentum at this point, getting chased down by the likes of Bernard Reyna, Kleinans, Myberg, all right behind him. So it is turning into a monstrous battle as they fight their way through. And we haven't even hit 5 minutes yet, and all the action is really heated up.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Reyna. He's gone from what was at second, third place, down to 20th place, and now he's back up to 12th place again. So he's definitely on the comeback charge here.
Well, as Jason McGregor pointed out, take a look at Justin Lotus, who lost about 10 positions on that run. He's dropped 10 positions, started in 8th, now in 18th, and trying to claw his way back up. So also not having the greatest time for his racing at the moment. The battle for Dean Kabasa and Tini Nkube, the two teammates that duked it out with one another last season, now going to take the fight once again and hoping to keep enough momentum that both of them don't get caught out as they fight their way around this very, very tricky circuit.
No, it looks like Nkube has got a little bit of damage on the front end of his BMW. Doesn't look like it's hurting him or it's hurting the aero on the car. You see Kabasa running a little bit. Oh, and he stopped. What do you think happened there, Steve?
Not 100% sure, but that's it.
He's going again.
Now the questions start getting asked. Did he discover that the brake pedal needs to be gone and clicked in or not? Do you think the USB got moved? Possibly. Possibly.
No
Conspiracy theories. Come on, guys. We will need to see them now.
Yeah. Maybe his VR headset died, like somebody I know.
I don't know. I plead the fifth. Take a look at Van der Westhuizen and going after Sujin Pillay, really putting in an extra bit of effort, a little bit of elbow grease into this battle. The KSR driver hoping to get right onto the back of Mr. Pillay, who has driven that Ferrari through 2023. Well, 2022, now into 2023, knows the car like it's the back of his hand at this point, and has really been doing some great experimental work into it to try and get it through the ranks. I actually had a chat to him a little bit, and he said he's been tinkering a little bit more, but working in fractions, not in your usual millimeters. He's working in fractions to try and get a bit more momentum out of the vehicle.
Now, Mutai Musa on the stream, he actually said something quite interesting. I think he found the ignition button. And that is actually what might have happened. He might have switched the car off.
I won't lie, I've done that before.
Yeah, Keegan Sanderson also says my vote is he switched the car off. I've done it a few times before. My speciality is hitting the pit limiter on tight turns, especially right-handers.
Yeah, but you see, these are little things that can happen, and only the driver will know and never tell. Unless anyone's watching a stream, then we might hear from a stream of he caught the button.
Oh man, but Stephen, back to the race. Gideon Renner now in 11th place. He is duking it out with Dean Kabasa as they make their way through the chicane. The tyre barrier seems to have gone. It's no longer with us. So definitely trying on the outside now and trying that cut back maybe lining him up to make the pass into the last corner. Definitely all over the back of that BMW. Let's see if Renner's going to look on the inside on this last corner. Nope, decides against it and decides to follow Kabasa through on the pit straight.
I just think there wasn't enough momentum for him to get that little bit more of a drive. And unfortunately, that has cost him dearly, needing to try and figure out how can he get a little bit more pace underneath him to claw his way through to the top. Yeah, considering, if we take a look, Gideon Renner started in 4th. He dropped 7 positions to get where he is at the moment. So he is fighting desperately to try and get back up and get those valuable points. But unfortunately, the McLaren just not agreeing with him right now. The harder he's pushing, the worse it's getting. And now he's got Bernard Renner right behind him in the mighty Aston Martin, who has slowly but surely been putting in the effort to try and close down on the front too. He's actually faster on the last lap. He did a 27.5 as his quickest lap time. And Gideon Renner did a 27.9, while Dean Kabasa 28.3. So at the moment, the mighty Aston Martin has got the legs. All he needs to do is try get close enough to make the impact.
Yeah, while Kabasa is keeping Renner busy, that will definitely slow him down a bit. So we see Gideon Renner looking up on that inside. Same type of move that he tried on the previous lap. Let's see if he's closer this time. Looking on the inside, but again, not close enough to make the move on that BMW. Steve, just quickly back to the stream. Mr. Musa, as you refer to yourself, it actually reminds me of a team that me and Steven raced against in a previous race. Steven, you will remember Team Muzda.
Yeah, I remember it very, very well, but just as you said that, Gideon Renner actually caught a vicious tank slapper, which is let the likes of Dean Kabasa get away and go after Daniel de Villiers. But, yep, no, we've seen our fair shares where guys have got some very interesting names, that's for certain.
Yeah, we won't mention all of them on stream. Some of them have got pretty dodgy names. But back to Gideon Renner. As we see a car off in the dirt. Who was that? Who's falling down the grid?
That is Darren Miller. The Race for Hope Mercedes going and getting it all out of shape. Let's see if we can try and catch what happened. Making his way through. I think maybe he might have just clipped the grass and got it all turned round. Trying to get the power on. Goes out wide. Clips the grass over the curbs. Runs it round. And parks it.
Yeah. You know, that's one of the things you're trying on a track like Donington, you're trying to use all of the track, and I mean all of the track. So that millimeter, 2 centimeters or whatever over, getting that power down, that big Merc just said, nope, I'm not living with it.
No, not going to take it today. And take a look at Nkube now having Justin Lotus, who's all over the back of him while they're going after Kleinans ahead in that little Honda, while Darren Miller in the AMG now having to really try and figure out how can he get a little bit more drive out of the car and pull away from these guys. It is turning into quite a monstrous little fight towards the back. But if we take a look back up to the front, Bego Krobler going and taking the gloves off and taking the fight to Christopher Radloff. Radloff coming out of the Passion for Speed event last weekend and had a bit of fun out in the Alpha, jumping into a BMW in the sim. It's got the likes of Bago Krobler really hunting him down, hoping to try and force a mistake. Bago trying to go up on the inside, going to go late on the brakes. Christopher Radloff going and making sure he can brake just a fraction later. Can he stop the cut? In fact, it does so absolutely cleanly. So Radloff really putting in some extra bit of effort here. Ruan van der Vesthuizen also tried making up a bit of time with Mac van der Merwe. Now, you've got to remember, Mac had some great pace in last season, and he's hoping to try and continue it into 2023. They're working their way through the back markers, and I think that is Eric Costain. Yeah, that's Eric Costain in his 19th position, who's getting blue flagged at the moment, and is going to have to try and figure out to move out the way. Just that Porsche is not so happy underneath him right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Back in stepping out under acceleration, that car's not a happy camper. But back to this little battle, Dean Kabasa finding himself in the middle of de Villiers, and he's got Renner behind him. Absolutely not a comfortable place to be, as you see him working the steering wheel of that BMW in the Petronas colors. Interesting enough. Steve, I think he's got his rear view mirrors full of Renner, and he's trying to hunt down de Villiers in front of him, but Renner now, there's millimeters between those cars as they go through those corners.
Let's see if we can get a little bit on board with what Renner's view at the moment from the little McLaren as we jump into the helmet cam. Yes, we've got helmet cams just like in F1. You could see really hanging it out, third gear the whole way, gets a little bit more drive, hanging in third a little bit too long, not changing just as yet. Late on the brakes, turned it in.
It made it stick.
There we go, came in like a missile out of nowhere, stealth bomber move, and let's see, now he has to try and defend against the likes of Dean Kabasa, and we've got Bernard Renner who's now joined the party. Daniel de Villiers in the Ferrari is just looking around and going, well, I don't want to be near any of this right now, considering these guys are pulling out all the moves, all the stunts, and are going to do their absolute best to get past one another. It's absolutely incredible stuff that we've seen for round number 1 of the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. And if this is what we're going to see and what we're going to expect during the season, I think we're in for a fantastic season of racing. And yeah, something tells me I've got to go back to the training box and start watching these guys a little bit more, finding out where they're getting the extra pace, because it's just absolutely incredible to see where the limits are getting pushed. You know, where you think it's not going to stick, they made it stick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were chatting before the race about there might be a little bit of rust involved after the Christmas break. This is essentially the first championship race back since last year. But Stephen, there's no rust here. They've obviously put in the work to be as quick as possible here on Donington. That McLaren, again, looking on the inside now of de Villiers, but not close enough. Renner will have to follow him through, maybe have a look at turn 1 as he tried to get into that slipstream of the Ferrari, but don't think he's close enough for turn 1. He'll have to follow him through and maybe look at sector 3 on this lap to try and make a move past de Villiers.
Dropping a wheel on the dirt and losing out a little bit of momentum there, but really just the extra bit of effort going in from you could call it the mid-grid at this point. Couple of drivers unfortunately unable to make it due to the current load shedding, but we expect to see them back in for the season. But they are watching the race, and Jean Rebutha is one of them, watching a race and saying, listen, he's keeping an eye on all the action, cheering on his mates, which is great to see. We've got Eddie the Fisherman Francis, who's gotten out of his paddle boat to come and support his mates.
You're going to get it for that one, I'm sure. I'm just waiting for it.
But some incredible racing going on.
We also got Luke Addison joining us. He says, Stuart Mana Stuart. Stephen, for you that that only speaks English. As you see a little bit of contact there between De Villiers and was it Cabasa?
No, that was not contact. That was just a clean pass. Take a look at... Oh, no, there was a bit of contact there. Never mind. Came in like a missile. But...
Gave him like a wrecking ball.
That's it. He tried copying the move, and unfortunately couldn't make it stick. De Villiers managing to get a little bit more drive, and Cabasa having to just sit back, try and figure out what he can do. But seeing the likes of Gideon Reyna, who's freed up, he's in 8th place, getting back on the charge and hoping to claw his way through. Bernard Reyna, though, in the Aston Martin, not giving Dean any room to breathe. Dean giving Daniel De Villiers a rough time as well. So these 3 cars are going to slug it out until the very end. I can see that one coming a mile away.
Yeah, Dean Cabasa not getting a break at all. I mean, he's been in the race. I think after tonight, he's going to know he's been in a race, even though it's only been 45 minutes. We see a bit of dirt there. Oh, somebody ran wide. I think it was Reyna.
That's Reyna who lost out the drive. Let's see if we can try and get back to it and see what happened. Making his way through. And, just gets a little bit out of shape. Tries to turn it in. That back end not working out with him. And losing a fair amount of drive. Over the curb. That's gone and hurt it. Yep. No, just couldn't turn that car in. I think the front tires are starting to feel the pain, and suddenly he's getting that lots and lots of understeer. As you see Bernard going and touching the dirt, but Daniel De Villiers managing to retake his position. These 4 have been slugging it out for majority of the race.
Yeah, and we're not even 20 minutes in. That's what I wanted to say. So, strictly speaking, not even halfway yet. And I think these guys are going to feel it after this race, especially these 4. We got Reyna, Cabasa. Reyna as
De Villiers gets it all type of wrong. De Villiers gets it all types of wrong. Let's head back. Let's see what happens. Car just over-rotates out. Keeps it out the wall, but that has unfortunately dropped him down. And now has to try to claw his way back. Just that little bit of rotation, unfortunately, coming into play. And when the tail end starts saying, how's it to the front nose, then you've got a problem. Getting past Hansi Myburg of the TTHR Cheese Puffs. Yeah, you can't call them the knickknacks, they're the Cheese Puffs, as they make their way around the circuit.
Okay, interesting.
And back up to 4th and 3rd place. Bego Krobler onto the back of Christopher Radloff, still not giving him a bit of a gap there. He's constantly trying to force Radloff into a difficult situation. Now remember, they're 2 of the same team, Hybrid Academy, but 2 different subsections. So Hybrid Academy Ferry, Christopher Radloff. Hybrid Academy Doroma is Bego Krobler. Ryan Otten's in front is Hybrid Academy. Daniel Rowe, Hybrid Academy Roma. So he's going and doing it. So it's currently at the moment Hybrid Academy 1 to 4. Sujin Pillay trying to see if he can break that. Mac van der Merwe, who did incredibly well at the end of the 2022 RaceFace Sprint Series last year, hoping to try and just get a little bit closer for the championship points. So very, very close racing. Hansi Myburg going after Daniel De Villiers, not giving him any room to breathe at this moment, but currently I think things are starting to spread out. Current closest battle is Hansi Myburg with Daniel De Villiers at this point. Second to that is Bego Krobler and Christopher Radloff, 0.8 seconds between one another. So the guys are starting to open up a little bit. But Hansi Myburg really getting the bit between his teeth at this point and going after the prancing horse, hoping to make an impact and get out of that 13th place, go after 12th place, and hopefully try get into that top 10. Because it's no easy feat, but if you can say you came top 10 in the pros, well, you made it, baby, that's for certain.
Yeah, top 10 finish pro division, you know, that was also always as good as a race win for me. Do you think Myburg is gonna try and put that pressure on De Villiers? He knows the rear end of that Ferrari might be a little bit vulnerable and try and maybe exploit that to his advantage. See if he can push De Villiers into another mistake. It's happened before.
Well, you got to remember, De Villiers caught a horrible slide, so those rear tyres have got a little bit of a flat spot on them. The temperature shot through the roof, so the PSI went through the roof. He started hitting at 28s instead of the usual 26s we like having on our tyres, so he's currently got balloons underneath him. All you need to do is keep pushing for that mistake, and you can eventually get the guy to start losing grip, start accelerating at just the wrong point, and run into a difficult situation. Where Daniel De Villiers has the advantage, he's got a little bit of clear room ahead of him, so he needs to try and block out the mirrors, focus on what he needs to do, and just keep going line after line. He's got some spacing between it. This is where you got to start falling in those mirrors, concentrating on what you're doing, get back into that rhythm. The tires will come down and you can start getting in for the race.
Yeah, typically more of a situation, as you said, focusing on what's happening ahead of you instead of focusing on what's behind you. Because if you focus too much on those rearview mirrors, it actually distracts you. It actually slows you down. And you can actually, make a mistake. As we see Van der Merwe, he's not hanging back. He lets that rear end of that Audi hang out as he chases after Sergeant Pillay. Sergeant, one of the few guys, as you mentioned before, he decided not to change his car. And I know some guys tend to do that, Stephen. They stick with the same car season after season. They get to know the car. They get to develop the car to the full potential. And it definitely looks like Pillay, he's not moving away from that Ferrari anytime soon.
No, that's not at all. But taking a look, Darren Miller. Now, we saw Darren go and lose it earlier in the race. Now onto the back of Hansi Myburg, trying to get a little bit more drive. So that Mercedes is really hammering it at this point. Hoping, maybe, just maybe, he's going to have enough to get ahead of the BMW. Diving up on the inside. Couldn't make it happen. Myburg tried going on the inside. De Villiers. This is, I think, a very difficult point. De Villiers into the dirt. Loses the drive. Here comes Myburg and Darren Miller. And they look to go and try put poor little De Villiers smack bang in the middle. And unfortunately gets driven out wide. Myburg gets his drive killed. And that's allowed Miller to get a little bit more momentum to try and get behind him. You can see turning into a bit of a battle for the two front engines, one mid-engine. Battle of three different monumental brands, but it looks like De Villiers just managing to keep it ahead. Darren Miller fighting tooth and nail, hoping to try and catch up to the back of Hansi Myburg, who has constantly got his nose on the back of that Ferrari, hoping just maybe it's going to be enough to cause him to go off circuit once again.
And while the three of them are battling it out, we see Nkube in the background. He's, starting to make some ground on this little battle. And I think sometime soon, within the next lap or two, we're going to see a four-way battle. And all of that's going to be for what? For 13th place?
Well, this is actually going for 12th place. So the guys are really trying to stick it out. And we talked about some fast and hard racing. Well, we're starting to see it, and not really in the front end where we expect it. We're starting to see it towards the mid and end of the field. The guys are really putting in that extra effort. I like to see it. I like to see new names going and ruling out in terms of what's going to happen, where it's got us on the edge of the seats. Take a look at Nkube, though. He has now made it. He's caught the train. He's in the slipstream, and he has all the focus of Darren Miller in the Mercedes just ahead of him. So Darren, part of the race for hope, has to try and hang on for dear life. And Nkube trying to go around the outside, carry a little bit more momentum. De Villiers hoping to try and pull away from Myburg. So it has turned into a four-horse race. We foresaw it, and now it is happening and unfolding right in front of our eyes. Who is going to be able to hold out for the next 19 minutes when it's nose-to-tail racing like this?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that Merc of Miller. That rear end, he's leaning on that rear end heavily. That rear end is struggling to hang on. I don't know if his rear tires are liking that very much, and if they're going to hang on until the end of the race if he keeps this up. But right behind him, Nkube has made his presence known as well. But at this stage, Myberg's soaking up that pressure. He's not, letting Miller intimidate him all that much. As we see them going through, you can see that Merc leaning on that rear tires, trying to look on the inside. Let's see if he has what it takes. And he's made the move. Almost looks like, Myberg gave him the position, maybe opting out before that chicane. Maybe he saw an accident coming that we didn't.
Let's actually go back a little bit. We can and see the move that Miller did, and trying to line himself up. Let's actually go into the helmet cam as he makes his way around, and it does look like a little bit of brakes being held. Actually gets let by a little bit there. Doesn't look like he was there wasn't any fight, that's for certain. Managing to get by.
Maybe one of those scenarios where you think to yourself, okay, this is a bad idea. I'm gonna rather get out of this and live to fight another day.
Or maybe seeing that Darren Miller's got a little bit more pace in him, decided that he's going to use Miller to be a wrecking ball to go and charge up and go for it. But I just want to point out, fastest lap time of the race, not for racing qualifying, 127.9 set by Bego Krobler. So that's a good move there. Bernard Reina and Tinus Bertho slugging it out between one another. Looks like they're getting caught up between themselves and Justin Lotus, who's in 19th place, who's, well, for a blue flag driver, getting blue flagged, he's looking a bit racy to me.
Yeah, maybe he had a little bit of an incident, but at this stage, he's not looking all that slow. And as Reina makes his way past on the inside, not a lot of room there.
Yeah, I think a little bit of panel beating was in order there, and Tennis Bertha was holding on for dear life. Mid-engines and getting knocked around is not their greatest of pastimes, but in the background, while these two are slugging out, Justin Lotus is hanging in, keeping an eye on it. He's keeping himself at arm's length. But Daniel de Villiers and Darren Miller are closing up on the battle as well. And they're slugging it out. And as you pointed out, Miller going out a little bit wide. Those rear tires starting to not wanting to bite underneath him as they fight their way around the circuit. This is getting interesting, as now we've got 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th closing down on 10th and 11th in the race.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a case of who looked after their tires best. And somebody off in the background.
Dean Cabasa. It's Dean Cabasa and Eric Costain had a coming together. And let's see what actually happened. Going a little bit back. Eric Costain keeping the Porsche. Now remember, he's in 18th place. Dean Cabasa is in 9th. Slowly trying to catch up to him. Gets it a bit sideways. And, no contact, but bailing off into the dirt, and that's definitely not helped him out.
Yeah, well done to Dean for avoiding contact there. I mean, not much he could have done, coming around the corner and finding a Porsche in the middle of the road.
It's always a concern when you get into a race like this and you start running into the blue flags. But let's go through the order. Ryan Otten's currently in first place. He has got himself quite a lead of 3.4 seconds ahead of this man, Daniel Rowe, followed by Christopher Radloff. Bego Krobler still giving Christopher Radloff a rough time, and Christopher Radloff deciding he's going to go rallying at this point. It's not second. Well, that's it. Not gone around the Dakar. No, Christopher Radloff has been around the Dakar cars and did a bit of work there, and bailing off into the dirt. So third place. Yep, that's it. Bego Krobler, third place. Fourth place, Christopher Radloff, Sujin Pillay in fifth. Mac van der Merwe constantly putting pressure on the back of him, followed by Ruben van der Westhuizen. Kilian Reina, Dean Cabasa lying in 9th place. Bernard Reina in 10th. 11th place, Daniel de Villiers. Darren Miller in 12th place. 13th place is Tinus Bertha getting chased down by Tini Nkube, who actually got the jump up, moving into 13th. Tennis Bertha in 14th. Hansi Myberg right behind, who is looking to go for a field goal at this point, hoping for that 14th place, just couldn't make it stick. Essie Esterhaus in 16th. 17th is Kleinans Eric Hustain in the pits for 18th place, and Justin Lotus out on circuit, lying in 19th place at the moment.
Yeah, Lotus having a bit of tough times there. On my timesheets, he's showing us 2 laps down at the moment. So, not the first race of the season that he wanted. We know there's a lot more pace than that in Justin Lotus. So, maybe he'll come back the next race stronger and show the type of pace that he's got.
Bernard Rayner actually slowing up quite a bit, getting into a little bit of an argy-bargy with Daniel de Villiers. As they make their way through, you could see not giving each other a single inch at this point. That Aston Martin bouncing around, tries to go up on the inside, side by side with the Ferrari, keeping his foot absolutely planted, both of them not giving an inch. And it does look like de Villiers had to go around the outside. Oh, gets it out of shape. Darren Miller gets into the contact, and Darren Miller into the wall. Oh my heavens. Bit of damage to that Mercedes, but had nowhere to go, unfortunately. And it's definitely it's heartbreaking, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think it was more a case of the Ferrari. The difference in pace was just too much, and he came up to the rear of that Ferrari just too quickly, and unfortunately ended up in the wall.
Things like that is just. You hate to see it happen, but it's racing. A cruel, cruel mistress of note can either work with you or give you the toughest of times. And
I normally get the toughest of times. I don't know. She doesn't work with me quite all that often.
But he's going to keep it going and try to keep the car going. So that tells me he's got some damage to the car. It isn't heavy damage. It's probably light damage. But it's enough it's going to make the car a little bit more interesting to drive around, that's for certain. Keep an eye on Mac van der Merwe going after Sujin Pillay, who these two have been running very, very close all race for 5th and 6th position.
Yeah, Pillay doing very well. I mean, he started off in 5th place. He's held that 5th place, but now he's come under attack from van der Merwe, trying to take that away from him. Will Sujin be able to fend him off and protect that 5th place that he's held from the start?
Well, if you think about it, Mac van der Merwe was the winner of the last sprint race for 2022. Now he's lying in 6th place, trying to get around Sujin Pillay, Christopher Radloff, Bego Hrobler, Daniel Rowe, and Ryan Otten. So he's a little bit further down on what he wanted to be, considering he is the defending champion at this point. And, trying to score valuable points and get a little bit more underneath him. Tini and Kube, though, I have to say, very, very impressed. For a man that managed to, deny, or he won't deny, but he won't accept it, that he turned the car off in a straight line, making his way back up to 12th position. So if we take a look at, where guys are, Ryan Ottens started in 1st, and currently in 1st. Daniel Rose started in 3rd. He's up into 2nd. Bego Krobler down 1, started in 2nd. Christopher Adloff started in 7th. He's moved up into 4th place. Sujin Pillay stayed where he started. Mac van der Merwe currently stayed where he started. Ruan van der West stays in up 2 positions. Gideon Rayner down 4 positions from where he started. Dean Kabasa up 7. Bernard Rayner up 8.
Charging battery.
Daniel de Villiers up 2, Tini and Kube up 2, Tennis Bertha up 6 positions, Hansi Myberg up 7, Etty Esterhaus still in the same place he went and qualified, Darren Miller down in 12th place, down 4 positions, Kleinans down 7, and at the moment Justin Lotus down 10 positions from where he started in this race.
Yeah, currently shows us 4 laps down. Don't know how accurate that is on the current timing screens, but definitely, as I said before, Lotus not having the race he wanted. As we go back to this little battle between de Villiers and Kube, we've got Buertha in there, we've got Brenner in there. Busy last 9 minutes we got ahead of us with these four battling it out.
That's it. No shortage of racing. And Nkube going and sliding that BMW. It was able to keep it, but losing a little bit of drive. That's allowed Bertha to get very, very close to him, into the toe, pulling himself along. Now, Nkube really needs to try keep it all together. That tells me those rear tires are starting to give, that there is no room for error for him at this point, and is having a difficult time. Bertha really focusing the attack. Nkube hanging on tooth and nail at this point. Daniel de Villiers getting sick and tired of seeing that BMW in his mirrors every lap after lap. And take a look, Nkube actually
He's
getting
struggling.
a little, getting unsettled, trying everything he can, and holding a tight inside defensive line to hold back the likes of that McLaren. That BMW just not on rails like it was previously. I think the long race of fighting his way back up through the field, and after all that's gone on, the car is just starting to feel the effects of this 45-minute sprint race.
Now, going back to the 45-minute sprint race, and, we've mentioned a lot of times before that a lot of guys see this as practice for tomorrow. This will be valuable information that they are gathering here for tomorrow night's longer race to try and figure out, as we see Renner run wide, he's onto the grass. That would not have done him very good, as we see De Villiers making his way past, and Nkube now on his rear bumper, looking on the inside, not making the move stick. So Renner managed to lose only one position there with his little his grass exit.
That's it, but it's allowed Nkube to get right behind him, and Bertha joining in the party as well, as Nkube had to come a little bit off the throttle, goes into the dirt, and that has allowed Dennis Bertha to get a little bit more momentum, drives up the inside, trying to make it stick, and just battling to get by, just can't get the power down enough. Nkube is surviving. He is like a cat with 9 lives at this point when it comes to this race. It's the only way I can describe it. He is hanging on, and where you think he can't hold on any longer, he's going to do everything he can. So
contact between Renner and Nkube, and contact between was it Bertha and Nkube as well. But what I wanted to say is Nkube went from defending to the attack against Renner in all of about 2-3 corners.
Well, let's take a look at it. Let's go in the cockpit of Nkube, who is chasing down. This was the initial contact that has happened, hanging it in 4th gear, not going to 5th, turns in, and it just looks like Renner didn't get on the power early enough. There was a contact. He did wait for the driver to rejoin. Gentleman sport there, going and allowing the guy to rejoin, not wanting to get into too much of a fight and having an issue. So, hats off to him, but he has lost out a lot of time. Hansi Myberg, though, has been given a second lease in life from 14th place, chasing down 13th.
Yeah, and I think that little contact would have hurt Nkube's tires even more. We see that BMW being a little bit squirmy under the brakes. I think he's definitely starting to run out of rear tires, and if Myberg looked after his tires a little bit better at this stage of the race, Myberg might just have a better car underneath him.
Now, Bernard Reino, who landed up with the rear contact, catching right onto the back of Tennis Bertha, going after that McLaren. Aston Martin being the old reliable car that we know and learn to love, now having a difficult time through more of the tighter parts of the circuit, just can't get the rotation out. You watch the exit, he is getting a little bit of out of the corner, back on the power. He's got power understeer at this point, and having to really crank that wheel to try and get the car pointing in the right direction and not go into the dirt felt farming. So these are little things that are coming into play for all the drivers as they make their way around the circuit. With only 4 minutes and 29 seconds, it has been a very, very close race, but not so close for this man over here. And as you can see, getting past Darren Miller, who jumps out the way, still going on with damage. So to Mr. Miller, I take my hats off to you, buddy. That's not an easy car to be driving right now. But Ryan Ottens, putting nearly a 4-second gap between himself and Daniel Rowe. Bago Krobler currently in third place after getting the jump on Christopher Radloff, who got a little bit fell farming. Sujin Pillay still got Mac van der Merwe right behind him. Ruben van der Vest in seventh. Eighth place is Gideon Renner, followed by Dean Kabasa. Daniel de Villiers in 10th place, who has now finally got some breathing room away from the rest of the field. Tianus Bertha in 11th, being chased down by Bernard Renner. Tini Kube in 13th. 14th is Hansi Meiberg. Isse Esterhaus in 15th. 16th is Jan Kleinans. Darren Miller in 17th. 18th is Justin Lotus. Unfortunately, we do have one retirement that unfortunately didn't make it to the end for whatever reason. But we look, hopefully they can get the car all sorted out for our next race next week. And it is going to be an absolute doozy of note for all these drivers to figure out what can we do to score those valuable points and claw their way back up to the front of the field before we head out to our next round number 2, being my favorite circuit, Brands Hatch. So we're going to keep it out in the UK for certain.
Now, Brands Hatch being another very interesting track, a very narrow track at certain sections, where overtaking can be difficult, sometimes very interesting. I'm with you, Stephen. I absolutely love the first corner of Brands Hatch, feeling the car get light underneath you on the downhill and then getting that grip and accelerating out of it. I think that's going to get interesting, and especially in the sprint race.
Oh, I've got to point out, I mean, these guys are really giving it their all. I mean, hang on, just taking a look here. We were talking about off-tracks. Drive-through penalty for Bernard Renner. Scoring a drive-through penalty. I think that was the chicane. That might have been the costly factor for this one. Drive-through this late into the race. And if he doesn't go and do it now, where there's the horrible pit lane, there he goes. He would land up with a very nasty penalty, but that has just allowed Hansi Meiberg and Tini Kube to get freed up. And oh man, your heart's got to go out to him. 1 minute 30 seconds left of the race, and you get a drive-through penalty. It takes the wind right out of you. That's for certain.
Yeah, especially so close to the end. I mean, it basically finishes your race. But having a look at this little battle between Meiberg and Kube, as you see Meiberg running a little bit wide there, it does look like Kube did manage to get his tires, if they were out of shape, under control again, and he's opened up a little bit of a gap. So Meiberg was not able to capitalize on that just yet. It does look like Kube has pulled away a little bit, not much, but he is sitting quite comfortably with 48 seconds to go in the race.
I'll take a look, and Kube's last lap time was 1:29.01. Well, Hansi Meiberg was a 1:28.4 on that last lap, so he had a little bit more momentum, but it seems like dropping a wheel on the dirt at the moment has definitely not helped him. Daniel Rowe, though, someone went off, and that was Renner. That was Renner who landed off into the weeds. What happened with him and the likes of Daniel Rowe making his way through? Daniel Rowe right behind him. Goes under braking.
Oh no, a little bit of contact in the rear, it seems.
Yeah, just a bit of a love tap, once, twice, 3 times more.
And he loses it again.
Yeah. Dirt,
I think the rear tires are overheated.
Yeah, dirt, power, game over, and unfortunately that was all she wrote. But ladies and gentlemen, crossing line in first place and taking the first win of the season, Ryan Ottards, followed by Daniel Rowe in second place after the contact. Bago Krobler in third, Christopher Radloff in fourth, Sujin Pillay coming around, just keeping ahead of Mac van der Merwe in the Audi. Followed by, in seventh place, now making his way around the final corner, Ruben van der Vesthuizen. Gideon Renner in eighth place, followed by Dean Kabasa, who is just all by his lonesome at this point, trying to keep going. Daniel de Villiers doing what he can to try and pull away from this man here, Tianus Bertha. as they get a little bit more drive. Tini and Kube as well, trying to break away from Hunty Myberg. Essie Esterhaus currently in 14th, just needs to keep going, but he secures his position. As our backmarkers have been passed, Clay Nuns finishing in 15th, Darren Miller in 16th, 17th is Bernard Brenner, and 18th is Justin Lotus. So, guys coming across the line, you could see the excitement going and wiggling the cars around, showing off that they've managed to do it. Absolutely fantastic, fantastic stuff here for RaceFace. And, well, a rather exciting race. I've got to point it out there.
Oh, very exciting race for the first race of the season. I mean, we thought there was going to be a little bit of rust. We thought things might get interesting, but these guys they showed their class. And first race back of the year in an official championship, they delivered the goods, and they delivered an awesome race. It was awesome to watch. Absolutely a privilege to commentate on. Steven, now we move on to tomorrow evening.
That's absolutely it. Tomorrow evening, you can catch us, so make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. We're going to be live on Twitch. We're going to be live here on YouTube. We're going to be on Mill State on Twitch, RaceFace on YouTube. Love to have you guys come and join us for that one to go and see all the action. But, gotta say, round number 1 of the Sprint Series, if this is the action, I can't wait to see what the season holds. Big thank you to all our sponsors for going and making it an absolutely fantastic time. We're glad to have you guys. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all the ages, gentlemen, any final words from your side?
As you already said, looking forward to the rest of the season. I think it's only going to get better from here on. And looking forward to tonight, or tomorrow night rather. Slightly longer race. Well, actually, almost twice the length. Different strategies. Steven, I think we're going to be entertained yet again.
I fully agree with that. And thank you very much for inviting us into your homes, giving us a 2-litre to drink and absolutely finish and leave the empty bottle on your table. My name's Stephen Koenig. Joining me was Janneman Price. We'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow evening. And make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and come race with us here at RaceFace. Good night.
Cheers, everyone.